Welcome back. If you followed us much at all, you know this car behind me is no stranger. Worked on this one quite a bit. This is my son's car. We've both grown rather tired of it, him particularly, and he's really tired of it sitting in the garage or out here in the yard and not being able to drive it. So instead of continuing to dump money into this old broken down non-running vehicle, he decided to dump money into this old broken down sort of running vehicle. Well, kidding aside, it's actually a much better car. Got a good deal on it, but it needs a few things, and so we're going to get in the garage and see what we got. ...2004 Jeep Liberty. It's two-wheel drive. It's well, you know, it's had a life. It's in decent shape though. It actually drives pretty good when it drives. Biggest problems I'm finding so far is it looks like it's got a leaky power steering pump and a probably bad alternator. Battery's dead, or at least not good enough to start it. You know, it's got a little bit of dirty. You know, been sitting outside for a while the guy had it for sale. Had a little trouble selling it. So we got a pretty good deal on it. It's got good tires in the back, almost brand new. And not so good tires in the front. They are decidedly not brand new. This is just dirty. It'll clean up. So not too bad there. A lot of brake dust probably. Certainly needs some paint work. We're at least down to primer, if not down to metal in some places. And so we don't want that to rust. So probably get this hood off at some point in the not too distant future. That'd be an interesting project. I said that with a Trailblazer that I would probably paint that one, and you guys could make fun of me for it. But this one needs it worse, so we'll probably do this one first. Headlights a little foggy. We'll go through how to clean those up. That's actually quite simple. I know it's a common problem in old cars, especially old cars that sit outside. But it's actually really easy to fix. See, you got fog lights. Same deal. Little foggy on the fog lights. Little spot here where not sure what happened here. Looks like somebody tried to sand it. Maybe there was something on it and never finished the job. Again, good tire in the back, so that's good. It's got a spare. That's handy. It's not a very good tire, but it's here. And the rim, so a couple tires there. Inside's not too bad. It's a little dirty, but as is, you know, old used cars. Looks like it needs an adjustment on the rear latch. It's a little loose. I know there's a problem with the rear windows. He said the rear windows didn't go down, and I think it's probably... That's not a good sign. That usually means the hood doesn't work on its own. Also fun, I don't know if you can hear that or not. The little rattle in there. That was probably the cable for the window motor is broken, just dangling in there. I don't know about the other side, but oh, we're probably gonna want that. Yeah, 185,000 miles. It's not too bad. All right, we got some juice, but not enough. All right, so we got some battery, but not enough turnover, which I expected with the alternator being bad. We did trailer this home, so it did drive onto the trailer, but I expected with a bad alternator probably wasn't going to last. That's why we trailered it. Pretty clean inside, though, generally. Back seat. So all things considered, this is just a cover. I can just take this cover off, get a new one. That's looking pretty rough, but yeah, not too bad though. All right, we'll get the hood open. Oh, that's a heavy son of a gun. Yeah. Guys, if you're working on old cars, you know, some of you guys have been doing this a long time. If you're watching this, this is obvious to you, but this isn't obvious to everybody. You get yourself one of these little boxes. They're really small. If your battery's totally dead, this isn't going to work for you. You need a different kind of box. But if you've got some juice in a battery, just not enough to start it, these are really handy. They take up very little space. You can throw them in a tool bag. I've used this a bunch on these cars, and it has been really, really helpful. If you can give them better clips, though. These clips are not the greatest. They clip on real good, but there's too much plastic on them, is what I'm saying. And they don't make a great connection all the time, particularly if you're looking on a side post battery. So we got juice. There we go. It's nice the guy to include this with the car. That'd have been a pain. Where are you? There you are. So he said it had been having overheating issues, and he replaced a bunch of things, and I can see a lot of it. He put a new water pump in, and he put a new belt on, he said, which looks accurate. Looks like a pretty good belt. He said replaced virtually everything in the cooling system. So new radiator, new fan, new hoses, probably not new clamps. That's cool. You can see it looks like a fairly new cap on that reservoir. So I don't know, it's pretty shiny given everything else, but it's a pretty clean motor. We're definitely not getting enough juice. I'll do that. I'll show you that in a second, how to test that. Power steering fluid I topped it off before we brought it home, and it was quieted down, but it was noisy again. And there's a lot of air in there. See all those bubbles? So it's pulling air in. That should be a closed pressurized system. That's a high pressure line, and then a return. It pushes out, and then a return. So if it's got that much air in it, it's pulling air from somewhere, and that's what's making all that noise. The pump down is pretty dirty. So it might need a new pump. It might just need new hoses, though. And I think we may try that first before we dive into that pump, because that doesn't look like very much fun to replace. Although I suspect the hoses aren't any more fun. Alternator is right here on top, though. I already got that ordered, and that actually should be pretty straightforward. Well, you can see that. Looks like there's oil in there, but there's not. That's not oil, that's just a staining. Oil doesn't start until right about there. And the oil's clean. I'll give it that. But there's not much in it. Transmission fluid looks good, though. Good and pink. Full. Good news. How are you looking? In there, and it's green. Not all brown and gross. And let's give a battery a quick test. It's going to be low because, well, it didn't start. See how low it is, though. Settle down there. So it's 12 volts, but it's not a lot. Probably not enough. Let's see if it'll start again. So we want to try to test the alternator. So put our jump box on again. See if we can get it fired up. Like, in other words, is it the battery? Or is it the alternator? Not getting no juice. Alright, well, my jump box doesn't want to work for some reason today. Worked a second ago. So, fellas, if you get yourself a jump box, get yourself a good one. apparently. We'll go the old school route. Alright, so we'll throw the charger on it. It's pretty dead. It had 12 volts, but as soon as I tried to start it, it pretty much drained it. So it still might be a bad battery. These Walmart batteries, just ever start. I don't know. What's the date on it? January of 20. Should still be good. Should be fully charged. Set the charger overnight. 12.94, 95. So we're good on charge. So test the alternator. We'll start the car. Let it, get the alternator spinning, and then test the incoming feed of the battery. And it should be right around 14, 14.2, 14.2, I think, is the regulated output of the alternator. So it was pretty all over the place. It was bouncing around from 12, 0.9, right about the battery voltage, to 14. So it should be 14 and high 14.2 ish consistently. So it's probably bad. It's possible the battery is not it's not good, not holding a charge, but we know the voltage coming in is too low. So it's at least an alternator, and maybe alternator and a battery. But we're going to start with the alternator. So what happens is when you need that 12 volts, and if you drop below 12 volts, things don't run, the car won't start. And the alternator needs to output more so it can charge the battery and still run the car. So you say it's putting out 13 point something volts, that's more than 12, right? You're fine. Well, the problem is once you start drawing power, like from lights or the radio or interior lights, or you're charging your phone or whatever, well then those things, running the fans, that all draws electrical power. And now you're below a point where you're actually draining the battery, not charging the battery. So you need to have that extra voltage. We've got a new one. We're going to go ahead and pop this out. You could probably hear it in the whine of the power steering pump. While we have the stuff disconnected, we'll take a look at the power steering pump and see what we got going on. It may just be like while we're in here, go ahead and replace the power steering pump, because then if not, then I'm going to have to be in here again. We're also not trying to just, spend all our money on everything. All right, so as always, we'll start by getting the battery out of here. Well, at least disconnecting the battery. I'm going to take the battery out just to get it out of the way. And these terminals are pretty grimy. I was having a hard time when I was trying to check the voltage of the alternator and the voltage of the battery. The terminals I had to really kind of scrape the probe in there and try to make a good connection. So they're a little dirty. They're not really all that corroded, so not too bad. But I'm going to take the battery out, and then I can get onto the terminals and clean them up with a wire brush or pad or something, just to get a better connection. You're just being stubborn. There we go. Alright, so then we want to get this belt off. Make sure you pay attention to the routing, so when you put it back on. And if you don't have one of these on your vehicle, if they're it's worn off, it's an old car or something, or it's been scraped off. Anyway, if you don't have a routing and you don't have a manual or whatever, then just take a picture. Just go down in here and use your phone and take a picture so that you can remember particularly which flat side, ribbed side goes where. Figure it out if you have to. Belt's got ribs in it. Right? See them here? So, ribbed side goes to the ribbed pulley. Smooth side goes to the smooth pulley. Ribbed to ribbed, ribbed to ribbed. Smooth to smooth. So, you can kind of figure it out, but that's a pain, and it's best to just go ahead and have a picture of it, either from the factory or from your phone or camera. Now, to get this off, there's one pulley in here that's just a tensioner. And you can, again, usually
The diagram will tell you exactly which one it is. Right there. So to remove the belt, you take that upper pulley that way. That's that pulley. It's got to go that way. So put a wrench on here, a breaker bar or something to socket on, and you can pull with some leverage. The other way you can tell if you don't have one of those diagrams, usually that pulley's kind of offset. This pulley doesn't move from independent of this, right, side to side. Obviously it spins, but this one though is offset. This is where its central point is, and the pulley's over here, which means there's an arm. Anytime there's an arm like that, that's almost always your tensioner pulley. I don't know what that is, and I'm terrible at guessing these, but I'll get a couple of sockets on a breaker bar and we'll get this off, or get the belt off. I guess right, it's 15. So just lift that forward. And the belt comes out. There's the new alternator. When you're looking at these things, especially when you're trying to think about taking them out, they can be kind of daunting. Like there's a lot of wires and tubes and stuff going into this engine, and you can look at this and be a little bit overwhelmed. But if you have a chance to get a replacement part for whatever it is you're doing first, you can get an idea of what you're getting into by looking at the new one. And a lot of times it isn't as bad as it looks, right? So you can see there's obviously a bolt goes through here, and you can even see this one. That one's threaded in the back. This one's not, right? So a bolt probably goes all the way through, screws into the backside. So this is on some sort of swivel point. This one is just a hole with nothing in the back, so this just bolts to something. Same with this one. It's got a post here for a wire and a plug. So that's all there is. 1, 2, 3 bolts, 2 plugs, 2 wires. There's our wire that goes to that post on top. There's our plug that goes in the back. There was that one kind of L bracket bolt. There's the other bolt that goes to that one spot, and then this is the one that goes all the way through. And that's all there is. Take this up. The new one has these washers and stuff on them, but just in case, clip on it. Stay. There we go. Well, it doesn't want to come out. That should have been all there is, but maybe it's on pretty tight there. We'll get a little mallet, see if we can break it loose. And to give it a little bit of a tap of the hammer to get it loose. There's a little in there snug. And it just comes out. I'll get the new one in. Now, this one has its own bolt here for that contact. That one had a lock washer on it though. And I think I'm going to reuse that just to make sure this doesn't come undone. Alright, so I'm going to wait on the power steering still, which was what I always wanted to do, but I keep trying to talk myself into doing it now. I want to figure out where it's leaking from, but for now I need to get this running again. Since the alternator is fairly easy to take out, I'm just going to put it back in, put the new one in, I should say, and get it running again, and we can troubleshoot the power steering pump separately. So, that big long bolt is the one that goes all the way through. Get them good and tight with the hand wrench here. I don't know what the torque specs are for these, but like I said, they're hardened bolts. So the torque spec is all of them Give it all the torques. Tighten it till you can't tighten it no more. I'm sure, and in fact I know there's actual torque specs for this. I just don't know what they are. And somebody's going to comment on this at some point in life in this video where they'll say, "You idiot, it's this. Or you over tightened it." Yep, probably. Ain't going nowhere though. Put it on first, so it's easier. Hope you can see it. Has this little hook on it. And there is a hole in the top where that little hook sits down in. Here's the old one. The little hook will go down in that hole. The cap back on. So we want to clean these contacts up. Initially, I want to clean up kind of the outside of them, just keep them from getting too corroded. They're really hard to hold, so I'm kind of holding them with just a pair of vice grips, and just use a. You can use a piece of sandpaper. I'll show you that actually in a second, or a wire brush, and this just works a lot faster. All right, so that gets the bulk of it. Doesn't get everything though. What I'll do, it doesn't get inside the hole, which is really where the primary contact is. That's more just cleaning it up for future. This is the inside here is what makes contact on the post and the battery. So you want to make sure that inside is as clean as possible. I just take a piece of, like, I don't know, this is 150, but I don't think it matters that much as far as the grit. I'm gonna just get in there with my finger, wrap it around my finger. Yeah, just get the inside clean up a little bit. They're not that bad. I just figure since I have them off, I'll just go ahead and knock this part out. That way you don't have, it was probably a little bit of a paranoia on my part. We've had multiple cars with bad battery contacts that have caused us to make other bad decisions because we thought something else was wrong, like starters and batteries, and it was just a contact that was a problem. So now whenever I have these contacts out, I clean them up just in case, because I don't want to have that happen again. I don't think it matters what grit you use. Anything will work. Just something abrasive. Just something to get the crud off. Get the battery back in. I didn't really think about it when I took the battery out, how easy the battery was to get out. I did notice this just pulled right out before, which means this lower, the bracket isn't actually holding it in. There's a lip inside the battery compartment. There's a lip here that overlaps, and one on this post, and this was loose and came right out. So I'm going to take this off real quick and just make sure the battery's in there for a while. It's been there since 2020, so it hasn't gone anywhere, but make sure that it's locked in good. So I'm going to get this off and clean this out while we're at it. So that will rock that way. I don't know if you're going to see it. It's hard to see it on camera, but it'll tell you this side battery. So it goes that way in. I think that maybe was a problem. I think it was in backwards. So it wasn't making good contact with that lip on the battery to hold it down. There. Now we'll move. So we'll get our battery reconnected. Okay, battery's back in. Now we put our belt back on. Get your diagram for the belt. So you want to get it on, you know, kind of how the diagram has it. The bottom pulley, the main crank, up over that one. Just trying to keep enough tension it doesn't fall off. It goes down under this one. Back to power steering. And then you see we can't get it. So that's where we use our tensioner. Give it some slack.
It's over that one, straighten that one up. For the most part, especially on the ones that don't have the ribs on them, they'll straighten themselves out. It'll self-align as long as you have the ones with the ribs on them, because they don't move. We should be able to turn it over and test the new alternator. There we go. Well, I remembered as I was putting everything away, I never checked the air filter, and yeesh, that's pretty dirty. So kind of brittle. So I think while I'm in the store, I'll pick up a new air filter, and that just goes in into this box here like this, and clip that down. So it's good enough for now. We'll get through the day at least. It's been like that for a little while, but it'll run better with a good clean air filter. So we'll get that cleaned up as well, and order new for the lift for the hood. All right, well that's all for today. Relatively short. I mean, alternator, like, it's just not that big a deal. Some of them are harder, right? Some of them are harder than others. Depends on the engine configuration. This particular one is actually quite simple. It probably took, 15 minutes total to get it one out and the other one back in. Serpentine belts and alternators, and you start using these terms and they sound really scary, and I don't know if I can do it, and am I going to break something? And don't be afraid of it. You can do this. The power steering pump, that's a little bit different. Biggest problem with the power steering pump, if from a do-it-yourself standpoint, is they don't come with a pulley. So if you need to reuse your pulley, you'll have to get a pulley puller and pusher to get the pulley on and off. It's just press fit on. There's tools you can get, and maybe we'll do that if we have to change power steering pump. There's tools you can get from O'Reilly or AutoZone or wherever you get your tools from, wherever you get your parts from. And just like we did with the brakes, remember that? We can rent the tool. I still am pretty convinced it's just the leaky hose somewhere and not actually the pump. But we dig into it, I could be wrong there. But for now, I think we're going to call it a day. Really, really quick. 30 minutes of work. Anyway, hope you learned something, and I hope you get a little confidence to do this yourself. These repairs don't have to be expensive, and you can save yourself a lot of money. So we'll get him back on the road. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe. Hit the bell. See you next time.